plane trip to Colombia. As a young and rather aggressive new operations manager for a mid-sized mechanical contracting company, it was good experience as this was the company where I had originally served my plumber's apprenticeship. By the time I had grown in experience and ability while working for a couple of other larger contracting firms, I traveled overseas for both education and extended experience working in non-American atmospheres. I had made contacts with several related engineering companies and subcontractors over the years. One was a Japanese engineering company that was awarded a portion of the then new Diamond Star automotive plant as a design and build basis. I had met the head of their newly developed automotive division, and we hit it off well. He gave me a call out of the blue and asked if I was interested in being the mechanical portion of the body shop. I told him yes, so we met. I bid the project, and the company I was working for at that time was awarded the project. Long story short, the project was a huge success, and it finally established me in the operations manager position. At the same time, the company had a separate division in South Carolina, which was not doing well. The project was going over budget, and things like major equipment and tools would come up missing occasionally. The owner asked for my opinion, so I reviewed the financials and made arrangements for a plane trip to South Carolina. I found the situation where the monkeys were running the zoo. There was no existing leadership nor anyone currently working for the company who had the credibility to take the reins and assume management. At that time, I suggested two options: send me and one other project manager whom I had worked with for many years before the Southern operation to take charge, or complete the backlog and shut the Southern company down. Both options were turned down. We also explored the possibility of educating the current staff in project management. We, as a group, would go down and give seminars on what was working for us, each person having their own specialty to share. It seemed like a feasible option, but the Southern boys quickly came back with, "You can't run a Southern operation construction company the way you run the one in the North." I had already made many enemies in that office by telling and showing them the errors in their ways and how the project was being managed poorly. The business owner decided to do the seminars, no matter what they had to say. I told him it was a waste of time for two reasons. First, I was to give them the reason and education on how to watch their work and make mid-progress decisions based on cost accounting and aggressive labor management. Second, as efficient as the personnel in our home office was, not one of them was happy to hear they would be instructors. They all took the stand that they were to do the job, not be the teacher. The owner, who was the type of guy who seldom took no for an answer, we all were informed we were to try this at least once, or we needed to start looking for another job. That got our attention, and as mad as we were, we decided it was to our benefit to do what he had asked. We were told all the instructors were going to fly in the owner's 6-passenger plane and meet at the motel when we arrived. That turned into a very big train wreck. We met at a small airport, loaded our luggage, and took our seats. I had decided, although not my best decision, that I would bring a bottle of Tanqueray, and we would have a few drinks on the way to calm everybody down during the flight. We had hardly lifted off the ground when I broke out the bottle. We also had a large bottle of tonic, and we started drinking. 3 of us were pretty heavy drinkers at the time, and for some reason the others willingly joined the party. It didn't take long for all of us to get drunk and started horsing around on the airplane. That's when the pilot told us we could either sit down in our seats and stay there, or he was going to land the aircraft and leave us at the nearest airport. We sat down, but kept drinking. By the time we landed in Colombia, the bottle was empty, and we were all wanting another drink. They had sent a van to pick us up and take us to the motel. We would have to bunk with another person, but nobody knew who their partner was going to be until we picked up our room keys. We raised enough hell with the van driver that he stopped at a liquor store to pick up another bottle of Tanqueray. Just what we needed. Upon arrival at the motel, we immediately discovered they had a bar. Nobody checked in. We went straight to the bar and kept drinking. It was getting late in the evening, and one of the guys who was talking about his son being in the Special Forces unit. He said they played a game where, without notice, one guy would hit the other guy for what reason I'd have no idea in the world. It wasn't but a few minutes later that out of nowhere, one of the guys in our party hit me in the jaw. It hurt like hell. He knocked me back a step, and I was able to keep from being knocked down. He just stood there, laughed, and said, "That was fun." I thought to myself, if that's your idea of fun, you're going to have a good time tonight. No place in the young man's code of acceptance for that kind of offense goes without retaliation of some kind. As he was standing there laughing, I never changed my expression or showed a sign of anger. I simply hauled off and hit him as hard as I could, right in the face. Since he was drunk and totally unaware of what was to happen, he fell back, hit a table where people were sitting, sent drinks flying, and the table fell over, which left him on his back. That was when the bartender said, "I've put up with enough of this bullshit. You guys, you're out of here." We left with no further problems. We all walked over to the front desk, checked in, and got our room keys. I didn't spend any time checking to see who my roommate might be, and we all walked to our respective rooms. When I got to my room, there stood my boxing friend with his key in his hand. We each took a shower and went to bed, not really saying much to each other. The last thing I remember from that night was he said, "You son of a bitch, my jaw hurts." Smiling, I went to sleep. That next day was the longest day I think I ever experienced in my life. That next day, my boss and I had a very long discussion on how we would act when we were representing his company outside of the office.